Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome to the Sci-Finatics live stream for today. I am blessed with a wonderful guest as always. I am joined by none other than Ketwolski. Welcome along, mate. How you going?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. So, as always, we know we'll be talking about everything Star Trek related today. We'll be going through some chat about our thoughts on the more recent two-parter we just saw in Discovery. We'll be going over some theories and everything about what's coming up in Discovery. And we'll also be talking about some Mandalorian stuff, won't we?
Yeah, I know. Most people don't hear me talk too much about Star Wars, but I am a huge Star Wars fan, probably just as much as I am a Star Trek fan, but I just don't talk about it because, I just don't talk about it as much, but super fan. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So welcome along. I'm just going to put my glasses on so I can read all the lovely chat comments from you wonderful people who've joined us today. Welcome Chuck A, Doug, Stress-Free K, everybody who's joined us this morning. Or this evening, or this afternoon, whatever time zone you happen to be.
Whatever time zone you're in, right?
You're in. So let's get started by getting into some just general thoughts about. We've just had the two-parter, the Terra Firma Part 1 and 2. Nick, what were your thoughts on this two-parter? Did you like it? You thought it had some issues? What were your overall thoughts?
Ultimately, I thought it was just fine. I think that I kind of guessed going into part 2 that we were going to get kind of the Ghost of Christmas Past, kind of Christmas Future type situation where it was all kind of in her head and it was just being shown to her. They did do a little bit of a spin on that at the end, which we can kind of get into with what the Guardian said. But yeah, I kind of guessed majority of what happened in the second part. But I will say, like, during the first part, I was sitting down watching it, and when she went through the door and she wound up back in the mirror universe in the past, I didn't see that coming at all.
No.
And I was like, whoa, so that was a huge jarring impact. So actually, I thought part 1 was actually really good and set up something that, they ended it in a way that was acceptable and effective. It wasn't mind-blowing, I guess, if that makes sense. But overall, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, in the watching the first part, my thoughts brought me back to the Next Generation episode Tapestry, if you remember that one, where where Picard, where Q let Picard relive, a previous moment in his life, and I'm thinking. My initial thought was that Carl was a Q because there was certain similarities to that first part episode that I thought, this is really playing out very similar to that Tapestry episode from Next Generation, so there's all that sort of speculation going on. I was like, oh shit, like is Carla Q? But didn't play out that way. But I think the Guardian reveal was equally as satisfying an explanation, I think, than if he had have been a Q.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that they did that, which I think was smart on their part, because the character of Carl was a little bit smarmy, like a Q would be.
Yes, so he definitely had that kind of that sort of whimsy and that sort of double talking kind of You're right.
Yeah. He definitely did, and he showed up in an outfit that was out of time, which Q did a lot of in TNG. Especially he showed up in different uniforms and stuff. and different outfits and things and costumes and stuff. And I think it was good because with the door, it wasn't quite the Guardian doorway that we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
But so it was like a little bit of like a bit of both. It was like it could have like it was like kind of like going either direction there. It's like, is this the Guardian because it's a doorway, or is it a cube because he's got a little smarmy attitude?
Yes.
So I thought that was good.
Yeah,
I thought that was smart on their part to kind of leave us guessing a little bit going into part 2. I thought that was good. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, Philippa Giorgio is now, from what Carl was saying, has been sent back to a time where the Prime Universe and Mirror Universe, I think he said, were more closely located or closely aligned, or there was some sort of reference there to, I'm going to send you back to a place where
there was
it's,
Cronenberg had mentioned that. I think it was like in episode 4, I think, when whatever episode we first met Cronenberg in, and when he had his interview, and he was talking about how the Mirror Universe and the Prime Universe had moved so far apart because of different situations that he sent her back to a time where they were much closer together, so her molecules wouldn't rip apart and she would die horrifically. And that's a new concept in Star Trek.
Now, the question is this going to be a time where the Terran universe is more friendly, or is this going to be a time where the Prime Universe is more aggressive? Because you'd think if they're more closely aligned, is this going to mean that he's going to send her back to a time of a warlike time from in the Prime Universe? You know what I mean?
I mean, that's an interesting thought. I didn't really think too much about it. What I initially thought and what I was anticipating is that they're going to send her right back to right when they left originally, back in season 2. That's what I think is going to happen. Your suggestion of that it may be a slightly different time period where maybe the Federation is at war with the species, or maybe in some kind of another conflict or something, and that's why they're a little bit more aligned. That would be kind of interesting, because ultimately we don't really know too much about the time period with which she's going back to, other than the fact that it's going to be in that TOS era with Shazad Latif inside of Section 31 playing Ash Tyler, playing, other than that, we don't really know anything about it. Obviously it makes sense for them to do crossovers between that show and Strange New Worlds, which is already filming, so there's a lot of like crossplay there. So I think my assumption is that they're going to keep them in that time period. Like, they're not going to move that needle around too much. Probably also because they have all the props and stuff from that time period. They'd have to make a whole bunch of set of new props, for a different time period. So they're probably just going to want to reuse that stuff. So yeah.
I mean, it's the other interesting thought is that we keep having these very memorable characters on Discovery that kind of prop the show up to a certain extent. Like in season 2, we had Pike, and he propped up the show to a certain extent. And then we had Philippa Giorgio, whose appearance has always been really good. She's been a strong presence. She's been a great comic presence as well as a strength to the show. And now she's gone. So it's kind of a interesting point that they keep bringing these very strong characters into the show, and then we've see you later for a while. We've got you. We'll see you later. I'll thank you. Before I'll just say thank you to Snoopy McQueen, who has sent $5 in a super chat. Thank you so much, Snoopy. Snoopy says, "Hey, I am confused. Why is Lower Decks and Picard going to Netflix? I thought it was going to Paramount Plus internationally." This is news to me. Have you heard anything about this, Nick? I haven't heard this news yet.
I haven't heard anything about Picard going to Netflix. The only thing I heard was that Lower Decks was going to be pumped. Are you saying Netflix, or are you talking about Amazon Prime? Because Picard's on Amazon.
Picard is on Amazon Prime internationally. Right. I'm not aware of any move to change that over to Netflix.
No, I haven't heard them changing it over to Netflix. I know that Lower Decks just secured its international deal, which originally I think that they should have probably, honestly, to answer your question, Snoopy, very simply, is they sold the international distribution rights to a company, and they made a bunch of money from that, which they're going to turn into more profit for more Star Trek. So that's why they didn't wait for Paramount Plus, because if they wait for Paramount Plus to come out, they don't make any money off that other than through subscriptions. So they just sold a bunch of the show. They sold the first season's distribution rights to a company, and they made a nice check off of that. And hopefully that means we'll get seasons 3 and 4 or something more of Lower Decks. That answers if that answers your question. So.
Yes, sorry to interrupt your thought before. We're just talking about Giorgio Pike presence and whatnot, and how these the departure of these very strong characters affects the dynamic of the show. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of funny that Pike was a big hit. Everybody loved Pike, and they said, "Well, we're going to give him his own show." Okay, so and Giorgio coming in, I feel like her character was always fun. As somebody who comes in dressed in black leather and says a couple of mean phrases and kicks somebody in the head, and which is fun, which is very fun because she always brought like a very unique perspective to the Starfleet Federation style of thinking.
Absolutely,
which I really did enjoy. Which now though I feel like ultimately the writers and the producers probably knew that wasn't going to stay. That was eventually going to wear off. Like that was going to wear out, its welcome over time. So they're probably like, okay, so how can we continue to allow her to kind of flourish in this kind of gray area, zone? And that's why they gave her that show, which may be maybe a mini series or maybe a 1 season off or something like that. I don't know. And so so we'll see what happens with that. But I think that why they do that is I don't know why they do that, but I think right now in Discovery season 3, Michael Burnham and kind of Book, the character of Book, both kind of fill that role a little bit of that outside the box non-Federation thinking. So it kind of replaced Giorgio's role on the ship and in the show. So it makes sense to kind of pull her away. Very similar to why they pulled Tilly out of, the mycelial engineering office, because they have Adira now who basically is just replaced her role in that office, and they put her in the first officer slot. So it's so they're doing some clear shifts, even though some of it may seem a little bit jarring or whatever. They're doing some clear shifts, and I think this is intentional also to set up seasons 4 and 5 or whatever to kind of, continue to grow those characters out. That's what I think is going on.
We just got another super chat. Thank you so much, Good Tea, Nice House. I would love to see Giorgio arrive in a time period post Undiscovered Country and pre-TNG. So many stories to tell from Section 31 shaping TNG era. It is an untapped time period, really. We haven't really seen a great deal of, or if any, events or any flashbacks or anything that's really occurred between that sort of post Undiscovered Country, pre Encounter at Farpoint time period.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a couple of things that happened. You've got most of them are kind of like, there's some stuff that happened with Picard, obviously with the Stargazer, and then you've got what happened with the Enterprise C. Above that.
Oh, that's right. That's about the only one. And a couple of those little flashbacks we mentioned before, just in Tapestry with Picard at the Academy or whatever.
Right. So there's a couple of things there, but that's a bit of an untapped area. But I don't know. I'm very interested to see how they're going to do this, because they got Discovery away from canon timeline because they felt like it was doing too much damage. Like it was like a wild horse trapped inside of the barn, And it was just kicking all over the stuff, and people were really upset about it. And now they're going to do, from what I can tell, 2 shows in that time period, which is Strange New Worlds and Section 31. So how they want to go about kind of tucking it into canon without causing big problems is going to be rather interesting. And I'm wondering if they're going to play up more of this parallel reality stuff. Like, we're getting introduced in Discovery to this concept of a lot of different parallel realities. Obviously, they referenced the Kelvin universe, which was, I think, the first time that they've done that. At all inside of Star Trek, which was awesome. I liked that. But I feel like they're going to be playing that up, and maybe they're going to be doing a little Quantum Leap style Section 31 show where they're going to be jumping around to different timelines and stuff, doing a little what if stories. That'd be kind of interesting. I think that.
That would be interesting. I think that doing something like that would also give the show a certain added level of variety, so you're not just stuck in one time. All that there's such a established look and style for kind of each era of Star Trek. So it would add quite a good level of variety to the show to be able to move between those different areas and keep the show fresh.
Yeah, especially from a visual perspective, and also it gets them into a situation where they don't. It doesn't have to be this. It can make it so that they if they ever back themselves into any kind of corner that could potentially infringe upon canon or whatever, they can just kind of shift focus and do something else, and
yes.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of, I think from a Section 31 show perspective, if they have some smart writers and they're doing very, very carefully, there's a way to layer in that show into so many key elements of what's going on, even Undiscovered Country for that matter, because the whole situation that was going on with, we had all these different operatives working together, to try to undermine the Klingon Federation Khitomer Accords, essentially.
Yes.
Section 31 may have been involved with that, and maybe some underlying elements there. Maybe they were planning to go and bust Kirk out of Urapente or something like that. You know what I mean? Or there's a way to do that, but they have to be super, super careful, and they need to have some serious canon folks there to guide them.
Let's face it, I think if they did that right, I think it would work exceptionally well, because there's nothing more than Star Trek fans like, I think, is when we see those little connections back to previous series that we've seen before. When we see mentions or shots or whatever, I mean, obviously people lost their mind, when Carl turned into the Guardian of Forever and everything, and they used they even used the same audio track from original series when, I am the Guardian of Forever, whatever.
Yeah, that was great. Oh, yeah.
So, those moments are always kind of highlights. A bit like in the Unification 3 episode where we got to see we got to see Burnham replaying like Spock's log or whatever in the archives of Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, and she was all of those moments are the ones that we kind of lose our shit about, So I think any occasions where they're going to give us those connections through to past events and past things that we've, particularly I think events where you've heard before but haven't really been maybe unexplored, that's gonna work nicely if that was in fact the case. I'm just speculating, but yeah, I think we love those moments, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do. I think it's fun. Like even the episode in season 2 where they showed the intro clip from I guess you could say the menagerie, that's what I would call it.
Oh, yes.
Where they had Pike recollecting the first mission to Talos, where he met Dina, and that was fun, that was a fun thing to do, just to kind of tie it all together. And they don't have to do that stuff; they just do it for us, and it's kind of like, ooh, these little member berries that we get to eat, and,
absolutely,
and it's fun, I think that's fun. People call that like fan service or whatever, but I think it's fun when they do these simple little tie-in and connections and stuff like that, and yeah, I think it's fun. I enjoy it a lot for sure.
Thank you, Tom Casey, who just gave us a $2 super chat. Great discussion, guys. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for joining us today. Much appreciated. So in terms of what we've got we've only got 3 episodes to go. So now that Jojo has left the show, she's off through the Guardian portal or whatever.
Through the Guardian portal, right? Through the Stargate, the not Stargate.
Yes. It would seem like our remaining 3 episodes of the season are going to be focused on basically working out. I'm guessing what the whole situation with the burn is. We've got the what do you call it? The SB, was it SB-19 data from the Navarans, the Romulan Vulcan Navarans. What are we meant to? So are we just meant to call them Navarans now, or are we still meant to call them? I suppose that they are still Romulans and Vulcans, but they're just living on the same planet. I think that the planet was called Navarre. Yes.
Yeah, Navarre.
Yes. Yeah. So we've got all that. They're headed off towards the nebula. Where we've got now, if I remember correctly from the previous episodes, we've got a Kelpian ship, which I'm not sure whether the Kelpian ship was Starfleet or whether it's just a Kelpian ship that was doing something in a dilithium nursery, or I think was what they said. And then there's another Federation ship that was coming to their aid, from memory, and.
Yes,
but we've only heard the distress call from the first ship, which is the Kelpian ship.
Yes.
But it looks. I mean, I don't know whether you've had a look at the trailer for next week's episode, but it looks like it's sort of an interesting, almost like I pointed out in my review this the other day, that it almost seems like there's some weird, trippy kind of, almost like Christopher Nolan Inception kind of style stuff going on with some weird stairways, and we've got this planet that's kind of broken apart, and we've got. I'm not sure whether can we mention the visuals in the trailer. Do you think, in terms of the makeup that Burnham and Culber have on the UAT? Okay, so we've got Burnham in Trill makeup, and we've got Culber in Bajoran makeup. So whatever's going on this planet, I mean, there's some really wacky visuals going on there. So have you got any thoughts about what we might be in store for in our next upcoming few episodes as we round out the season?
Really, no. I would say that they have done a very remarkable job this season in particular with keeping us in the dark about what's going on. I think that the only time that even any of us really collectively were able to really get a good read on a guess was Terra Firma Part 2, but that's only because they were literally the 2-part episodes, so it was kind of easy to kind of connect those dots really quickly.
And the fact that Carl had the Star-Dispatch newspaper, that kind of helped a bit as well.
Right, of course, yeah, that did help. Yeah, that did help. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So they've done a great job with keeping us in the dark, which I applaud them for. I really do. They've done a really good job of keeping this plot of this season really under wraps, and I have no idea. The only thing that, based off the makeup, and I mean, the trailers are always so like intense, but I'm hoping that this next episode is a bit of fun. I'm wondering if, like, with them putting on the makeup and stuff like that, if there's like just a bit of like, kind of like, when they had that episode of Picard where everybody dressed up, and everybody kind of went down to Free Cloud or whatever. Maybe not as goofy as that, but something that's a little bit more adventure, I should say. Like, it's a little bit more exciting adventure, away mission style thing. They're obviously doing something, but I have no idea what. The only thing that I'm theorizing right now is that, because they made such a fuss about it, is that the device, that book connected to the Discovery, is going to alert the Emerald Chain in some way, and they're going to show up somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the trailer for next week's episode, there is a ship that rocks up that is distinctly Emerald Chain, in appearance. So I think that's probably a fairly good thing. I'm wondering whether the makeup difference and so forth there's some sort of weird out of body experience, like that they end up kind of taking over former members of the crew that's died or something, on this planet or whatever, to kind of learn, as a means of learning, I don't know, what happened or what went down 100 years ago when the burn occurred or something, like a sort of out of body experience, like they're inhabiting different characters, or I don't know.
What I would like to see is maybe like what they used to do on Enterprise, where they have to put the makeup on to go on the away mission,
That's right, yes.
I mean, they did a little bit of that in some of their shows, but they really made an effort to kind of point that out in Enterprise. And maybe they're going to a location that there are no humans, and if they were to go down there not looking like an alien species, they would look odd.
Odd, is it right?
So, yeah, maybe they're going to try to blend in some way, and
although
that
would make sense if they were both in the same makeup, but the fact that one's in Trill and one's in Bajoran makeup, that's a different thing. I think somebody commented in one of my videos saying they thought maybe, was it something like, do you remember the DS9 episode where all of the DS9 crew members were inhabiting Dax's former hosts? So when she was talking to them, I think Quark was one, and Cisco was another one, and Odo was another one. Which I thought that was an interesting theory. Although if that was the case, then they would all appear Trill and not Bajoran and Trill, sort of thing. So
I don't. That's why I say, like, I really have no solid guess as to what they're doing. And that's why I say, like, the only thing that I'm hoping for is that whatever it is a fun adventure. Like, they're doing something fun, and there's a reason they have to put the makeup on, and that's what I'm hoping for, at least.
And look, I think providing, with only 3 episodes to go, we also want to hope that whatever they've set up is satisfactorily paid off. Because there were obviously some elements at the end of Picard that did feel a little bit rushed. You know, the story was there, but it just felt with Picard there was a few loose ends that were sort of either hurried through, or it's sort of like we needed one more episode just to kind of, you know, sort a few plot points out that weren't, you know, really resolved, like what the hell happened to Narek, and, you know, what the hell happened to the planet of synths, and, you know,
and why isn't Jurati, I don't know, in jail for murder? I don't know.
Exactly.
A lot of questions. Yeah, right.
It felt like it just needed one more episode to kind of, you know, satisfactorily tie up a few of those loose threads. So I think the thing I'm hoping is that yes, that we get a satisfactory conclusion to this season, because they're very good at. I find they're very good at obviously setting up things that entice us and have us guessing, but then you just want to make sure that those things are paid off in a way that we find satisfying. Like, as an example, in this last Terra Firma double part episode, we obviously preceding that as well, we had all these flash images of Giorgio in the Terran Empire with this character called San, who'd been stabbed, and they were like wearing this kind of costume that looked like Black Panther from the Marvel movies, you know. And I think because the character was masked, and you saw this character in this sort of Black Panther-esque mask or whatever, you know, stabbed. It kind of led me to believe there's going to be an identity reveal with that character. Like, you know, oh, they've got a mask on. Who is behind the mask? So it kind of leads you to have those kind of thoughts, I guess. I'm not sure whether this is the same for you or not, but I thought, who's behind the mask? It's going to be an identity reveal because they're masked. Right. And in that last episode, Giorgio just goes, there's this person and they were called San and they were important to me. See you later, bye. You know, it's like, what? What was your response to that? Because I sort of thought, oh, well, all that setup with those flash images leads you to believe these flash images are going to be very important plot device somehow. And it didn't really kind of go anywhere, really. What were your thoughts on that?
I have two thoughts on that really quickly, which is the number one is Kurtzman was raised in the J.J. Abrams school of the mystery box, and J.J. Abrams is a phenomenal director and knows exactly how to create a good mystery that's very enticing and knows how to direct action very well. He is a horrific screenwriter and storyteller. And he doesn't know how to tell things, especially when he's in the writer's room. It gets all sorts of crazy convoluted, which is why oftentimes he's very good at starting franchises or starting ideas, and then they don't pan out because the mystery box, they don't even solve it in the script when they're writing it. They just leave it empty and then they figure it out later, which is a really strange thing to do. And Kurtzman was brought up in that same fashion, and I feel like they've gotten better with it over time. I think Kurtzman's kind of gotten better with it over time, but they still struggle with that. Yeah. Now, the situation with San, I don't think it's like a Leland situation where like they were clearly going for Borg origin, and then they were like, no, everyone's guessed that, so just cut that out of the show. Forget it. It's something we're just not even going to talk about it. And so they went a different way. I think with the San situation, because we had the flashbacks and that she mentioned it again right before she left the show or whatever. Yeah. I feel like that's actually all connected to this being the backdoor pilot for Section 31. Right. And her guilt over whatever it is that happened with that character is going to come up in that show. I think it's all trying to build out a little bit, trying to flesh out that character a little bit more, doing a little bit of prep work before they launch a vehicle of a show behind her. That's the way I interpreted that. I don't think it's just going to die down because that character also was mentioned in her book, her standalone book that they wrote. Right. That character was mentioned there, and really nothing beyond the fact that it was like listed like a lover or something like that, or somebody that she cared for or something. That's all that was really in there. They didn't get too much into it either.
It was a throwaway line, not a it was So I think as you say, I think if it comes around again in the Section 31 series or whatever, then at least, as you say, it's a setup for that, and not just something they're going, oh shit, we've we've dropped all these these clues. What are we going to do with this? Hopefully, if we throw the Guardian of Forever gateway at the audience, everyone's going to be so mind blown about that they'll just forget about the the whole flashback images,
flashbacks. And I do want to go ahead and point out really quickly, because I saw some discussion online about the writers have now created a situation where they can get themselves out of any problems with the sphere data and with the Guardian. They have this ultimate powerhouse of these two things that can get them, anything that they ever need to do. And I will say that we don't know anything about the sphere data really just yet. There's still a huge question mark about how that's going to go and where that's going with Calypso and all that.
Yes.
But with the Guardian, it was very clearly stated that he or the Guardian was being used rather liberally during the Temporal Wars, and has since really went into hiding and kind of shut himself off from being utilized in all manners of ways. So I think that they wrote themselves perfectly in that regard to prevent any kind of person being like, well, why don't they just go use the Guardian? Because he doesn't want you there. Like, he doesn't want you around, and he's not just there for you to get out of a pinch, and that's not his job, because I'm sure they could have probably asked him.
Oh, he was used and abused. He was used and abused clearly.
Right. He was clearly super upset about it, because they could have because you could also have just sat there and brought the Admiral down, and he could have been like, can you show me what the hell happened with the burn? But the Guardian's he's not there anymore. Like, he's not for that purpose. So I felt like they wrote that line in there very smartly to ensure that they don't just have this Deus Ex Machina device thing that can get them out of any problems. So I just wanted to mention that, because I saw some chatter about that online. But clearly the Guardian, being a sentient being, is like doing his own thing and is not really interested in really super helping around. I think he just took an interest in Giorgio. I think he even said that kind of in the episode. He was like, I find you rather interesting because you don't belong anywhere. Yeah. And anywhere you go is going to be very dangerous. I think he was just interested in Giorgio, and he's not really interested in everything else. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously next year's going to be an interesting year, I think, for Star Trek in the sense that we've got a lot of shows that are either in production as we speak or are about to go into production. I know that season 4 of Discovery is shooting at the moment.
Yes.
That is in production. I believe Strange New Worlds is in production at the moment. Would you?
It's in I believe it's,
or is it, or it's about to? It's either about to be, or it's just beginning.
They're pre-production right now.
Pre-production. I know for a fact that Discovery season 4 is in production. Yes. And obviously we've got Picard in production in January. I believe they go back into production for season 2 of Picard. Now, on the basis that during a non-COVID era, it would normally take sort of 8 to 9 months from the point of shooting to get a show on air. I think generally, it's at least that sort of turnaround.
Yeah, I think depending on the visual effects shots, but yeah.
That being said, if these shows are only kind of just beginning now, it sort of feels like to a certain extent, are we going to get Star Trek on our TV sets in 2021 before say September of next year? Are we going to be in a drought for 9 or 10 months?
Yeah, I would say that we're probably going to be, the first half of 2021 is probably going to be a drought. I would say the shows that are closest to being probably finished in my mind would likely be Lower Deck season 2 and Prodigy and Star Trek Prodigy season 1.
Yes.
So I feel like, and this is just based off, the Lower Decks one is based off of my interview that I did with Mike McMahon, where he was mentioning the fact that he had seen essentially the dailies, the animation dailies for the animatics, for episode 209 at that time.
Yes.
This was about a month ago, maybe about 3 weeks ago. And So that means they're trugging along, and the actors have also shared stuff on their socials that have already recorded their lines, and they've done a lot of that stuff. So they're trugging along pretty well. So I feel like Lower Decks and Prodigy are probably the two most likely ones that are going to return first, just because like if Discovery's filming
they have no restrictions in terms of production because it's just a bunch of people in front of their computers plugging in their little animation moves and a couple of actors in a voiceover recording booth, or even not even that. A lot of actors are now got a little voiceover set up at home in a cupboard somewhere.
Jack Quaid, he sent a picture out of him like recording his lines in his closet. Like he was sitting on the floor at his closet, and whatever works,
works. Totally. I earlier this year when I was having an interview with Jonathan Delarco, he said that him and Jerry Ryan were doing a Star Trek cruise, and the studio had to call Jerry. You know the line in, I think it's the last episode of Picard where Seven is fighting against Narissa, and I think Seven says, this is for Hugh, before she kicks her off the catwalk or whatever.
Yeah.
Jonathan was saying to me, I was with Jerry and she was in the closet in her cabin on the cruise ship, and we were recording it on whether it was on her phone or whatever, or whatever the case was. The cupboard was full of clothes, so it was like a acoustically dead, recording space. It's like these days, you just work with whatever you've got at your disposal, I suppose, don't you?
Right. You make it work, man. You make it work in the best way you can. And that's why I say Lower Decks and Prodigy. Lower Decks obviously was already in a position because they basically did the entire first season essentially, from the production standpoint. Obviously the pre-work was different, but the production of the show was done essentially remotely. So them rolling right into season 2 was very, very easy for them to do. So that's why I think Lower Decks is likely to be the first one out of the gate again for 2021. But I still don't know if that's going to be done in the first half of 2021. I think we're about to hit a 6-month, maybe a 5-month dry spell.
Yeah, sure. I agree. I think our best chance is season 2 of Lower Decks, and then maybe Prodigy after that. Actually, just talking about those two shows for a minute, something occurred to me or whatever. I'm not sure what your theory is in terms of the Janeway involvement in Prodigy, but it brings me back to there was an episode of Lower Decks. I think it was in the first half of the season where, you remember the episode where Rutherford was trying his hand at various different career moves. He did a bit of a stint in command. He did a bit of a stint in medical. He did a bit of a stint in engineering and security or whatever to see what what fit and what not. And when he was talking to Ransom on the bridge, when he was doing his little shift in command, I remember Ransom said something to him about, you can always initiate the Janeway protocol.
Right.
Now, I wonder whether that in some way links to Prodigy in the sense that is the Janeway protocol remember on Voyager we had the ECH, the Emergency Command Hologram, which, the Doctor kind of had as a sub-program that, he was doing shifts, where he'd sort of studied up on different command elements. Do we think the Janeway is actually going to be in the show as a flesh and blood character, or do we think there's this Janeway protocol that's sort of like an ECH, an Emergency Command Hologram, that the kids or whatever dial into whenever they need kind of a bit of help and advice?
I'll say that's a really cool idea. I'll sign up for that idea, but only if they also have actual Admiral Janeway. And they have sequences where the two of them are talking or whatever and being snarky to each other or something. And I would be really upset if they did two things with that character, which is one, some people are theorizing that she would be the villain in that show where she's trying to find the kids to get the starship back. I don't like that.
Nah,
and I don't want a situation where I don't want it to be like a holographic version of Janeway only. But if they have both, if they have real, literal Janeway and this idea that you have, I'm cool with that. And I think that's a fun idea to kind of like, what a fun kind of twist and turn of events for her life that she became this holographic program that was, you know, kind of maybe inspired by the EMH after it helped them out getting back from the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah.
That would be really fun. That would be a fun twist to it. I don't know what her thing is there. I'm just excited to see what they do with it. But yeah, that's a cool idea though. I like that idea.
And whether then you could have the ECH version of Janeway is like the sort of the stiffer version where she's got the hair up in the bun like she had in the first season of the show. And the actual version of her is, you know, the slightly older version, you know, maybe with her hair down like she had it in the last few seasons. And, you know, one is the one is the stiff, a bit more stiff by the book version, and one is a bit more loosened up version. Or I mean, there's plenty of opportunities you could play with in that regard, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a cool idea. I think that's a really fun. That's a fun idea. I like that idea. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun for sure. And that would be a really great way of like, yeah, that would be a really fun way to kind of get our cake and eat it too, because the situation that I thought of in my mind was that it was a retired Janeway, and she went along on this journey with these kids to kind of help guide them, and and she just kind of pulled herself out of retirement to go on one final adventure with this crew of kids or whatever that found this starship. And that was my original thought, but I like the ECH idea much better. That's cool. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Absolutely. So I'm just looking through my list of talking points or whatever. What else we got to look forward to next year? We haven't heard anything about Picard season 2 really, apart from the fact that they're starting production in January. Yeah. I'm not even sure. I haven't heard anything about the Section 31 series. Obviously, now that we know Giorgio's left Discovery, in terms of when that's hooking into production. We know that Discovery season 4 is in production at the moment.
Yes.
But yeah, beyond that, that's all. I mean, and then I think, as you said, I wonder when we'll actually start to see some visual stuff roll in from Prodigy, because we haven't even seen any concept artwork or anything like that yet, have we? In terms of the actual animation style for the series, whether it's going to be something like, say, Star Wars Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, because we know it's CG animated, don't we? It's not 2D like Lower Decks. It's CG. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it could be like, I mean, they say CG animated, and of course that's where everybody's minds goes, which is Clone Wars Rebels. I hope they don't do Resistance, that show that nobody watched. Yeah. That's not a good animation style. No. I personally don't like it. I'm sure other people probably do like it. Not a fan.
No, I'm not a fan either.
Yeah, I think it'll be something like Clone Wars. But yeah, I'd like to see ultimately what I think we're going to get in the first 6 months of 2021 for Star Trek is some teasers. We're going to get some set photos. We're going to get a lot of news that's going to be breaking. We're going to get the official logos for, like, Strange New Worlds' official logo, which we still don't have. News about Section 31 once that starts getting up again. I think it's just going to be a lot of news for the first 6 months.
I think all we've seen from Strange New Worlds, I think, in terms of that, and it's not even a confirmed thing. I think actually you do a video where there was like a makeup trailer or a production, like go this way for production sort of thing, which had a Strange New Worlds logo on a sign, but I think it was in the Discovery font, or it was in the original Star Trek font or whatever. But I mean, that's obviously not like not necessarily an official, here is our show logo kind of thing.
Yeah, I actually just today I digitally recreated that. I should have probably shared that with you since we're talking about it. We could have brought it up. But so I digitally recreated it, and it's actually, if you zoom in on it and kind of get it, it's actually just the standard Roddenberry font. The top one is the italicized version, and the bottom one is the standard
straight version, yeah.
And it has like two small constellations of stars that look like they came out of the Federation of Planets logo. But beyond that, there's nothing. Right? So I don't think that's not that I hate it. I just don't think that's the official one. I don't think it is. I think we're gonna get something different later. Just like how Prodigy had like a placeholder title. It was like it was just like bronze letters or whatever, like brown lettering, but now it has like this fun Nickelodeon style crazy font. So yeah, I we'll see what they come up with in another couple of months.
I like the Star Trek or Starfleet Delta inside the O on Prodigy. I thought that was kind of a nice integration. Thank you, Good Tea Nice House, for another super chat there. Hey guys, I mentioned the hologram Janeway in your first combined live chat, and you shot it down, laughing my ass off.
Did you? I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either. Kudos to you if that was the case. I don't remember us shooting that down in the last live stream.
We'll have to go back and rewatch
We'll have to go back and rewatch it. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, just obviously talking, as we just mentioned, Clone Wars and Rebels and so forth. On the Star Wars front, I know, guys, we do tend to, as on our respective YouTube channels, tend to focus primarily on Star Trek related news, but I think we would be amiss if we didn't discuss in some fashion today the amazing second season of The Mandalorian, which has just concluded on Disney Plus. I don't know about you, Nick, but I lost my mind on Friday night when I watched that last episode of season 2. It's like it was one of those moments where I think. And obviously, spoiler alert for all you guys who maybe haven't seen the finale yet, but that moment in that episode, it was almost all the way through that episode, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
I think I felt about Star Wars watching that finale of The Mandalorian, the best I've felt about live action Star Wars. Probably since I was it brought me back to my 12-year-old self, back in about 1983 or whatever, watching, Return of the Jedi,
Yeah.
It did renew my faith in Star Wars, because my faith was lost a bit in Star Wars from a live action perspective with the more recent films. And I think certainly the first season of Mandalorian set the bar, but I reckon they have just smashed it out of the park with the second season. Do Favreau and Filoni know how to please fans, or what? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my issue, I actually did a video comparison a while ago, which nobody watched. That's fine. Of Mandalorian versus Star Trek Picard, and actually how much they were both essentially doing the same. Like, both studios were trying to do the same thing with these vehicles. One was Star Trek Picard, the other was Mandalorian, and everywhere that Picard kind of struggled, Mandalorian either excelled or people just ignored. And they have this formula down there for Mandalorian, and it's just freaking cool. It's just cool, and I don't know why Star Trek struggles with that. And from a broader sense, obviously there's people that think Star Trek is cool. Like, I'm not suggesting that it's not cool. It's just there's a certain attitude and swaggerness to the Mandalorian. Obviously it's because it's the space western, but just with that big reveal. Are we going to say it? Are we in spoiler territory now?
We're giving all you guys ample warning that we will be talking about spoilers. So
yes, spoilers.
This is going to be a spoiler discussion. So be warned. Continue.
Yeah. So obviously the whole episode was really fantastic. Great episode. And that reveal with Luke at the end was it was perfect. Like, it was just like when that X-Wing showed up, I knew immediately who I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Some people were like,
initially I thought it was going to be Ahsoka. I thought, because obviously we'd set up Ahsoka in episode 5, and I thought Ahsoka's going to show up, because my first reaction when I saw the X-Wing is, I just assumed it's going to be Ahsoka showing up to help them, because we've established her relationship with Mando, blah blah blah. I thought it's going to be Ahsoka. So for the first few shots, which were on
it was Ahsoka?
I thought it was Ahsoka, because Ahsoka was wearing the hood thing in the beginning of the episode, and
she was.
And the footage, which was on a black and white security monitor. So you couldn't. It wasn't until we actually cut to real life footage where you saw the green lightsaber that because up until that point, the green lightsaber on the black and white security monitor looked white as Ahsoka had her lightsabers in the fifth episode.
Yeah, it probably was intentional, I think, just to kind of keep the tension going a little bit there. As soon as I saw the X-Wing, I was like, that's Luke Skywalker. There was no other answer in my mind. I was like, that's Luke Skywalker. And just the fact that they had him kicking ass in like this really cool way. Like they had to develop, which I'm sure I can't wait to watch the behind the scenes on this, because they had to develop a fighting style for Luke Skywalker that expanded beyond what we saw in the original trilogy, which wasn't much, honestly. It was just him versus Vader for the most part.
Yeah.
So they had to expand on his style of fighting, but also make it look like it was still him. And they just did it beautifully. I like how they've recreated the Vader hallway sequence from Rogue One in this show with his own version of that. That was really smart. And it was just this simple little moment, and it was just super, super effective. And I don't understand. Like, and I will freely, and I talked about this in my comparison videos to Picard. Like, The Mandalorian, both seasons have some serious structural issues. They have repetitive episodes. A lot of the plot elements don't make a lot of sense. A lot of the character things don't make a lot of sense. Almost every episode is this bizarre fetch quest construct. And the first half of this season was very much that, where he was just like nothing was happening, like nothing was going on.
When you look at the episode structure for a few of those episodes in the first half of the season, it was cut and paste. Mando goes to planet, meets somebody. He needs something, but they need something done in return. You know, you help me on my quest, I'll help you on yours. Then you get some information, go along your way. And for the first few episodes, it was, as you say, it was a certain level of cut and paste, the same sort of plot, but yet it still worked, and we were still happy, and we're still happy to watch that. We're still losing our minds over obviously whether it's Mando helping out Timothy Oliphant, on Tatooine kill the crate dragon, or whether it's him on that water planet helping Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians. It's the same. It's the same thing. It's just, but I think whether it's because we're dialed into all these moments of nostalgia, and obviously there's been a lot of fan service in terms of bringing back these. I'm not sure whether you can even call them legacy characters in terms of their, like Bo-Katan and Ahsoka from the Clone Wars.
I would say fan favorites.
Fan favorites, yes.
Yeah, fan favorites for sure.
So yes, even though the narrative structure was very, very similar, all the episodes still worked on their own, on their own merit and everything. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying, like, my criticism that I was just levying against it is all, like, I agree with you 100%. These things are very real. It's very like, that's a reality, but the also reality is that the show is still super entertaining and very fun. And this formula they've got is super, super effective. And I think they know that. That's why they announced like 500 new shows, at the Disney investor call. So they're like, okay, we're just going to keep making more of this, do that. People like that.
Yes.
But now, so it's super effective. It's very, very good. And I like everything that happened. I actually love the finale, and I love these characters. I love just being with these characters and what's going on in this universe. But I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Which is, do you think with Grogu, the child, Baby Yoda, moving on with Luke, going to the Jedi Temple, hopefully he doesn't die, Ben Solo, and the Mandalorian completing his story arc of accepting that it's okay to take his helmet off, and accepting that, love into his heart, and accepting that he has connections, and delivering the child to where he needed to go, which is to his people, and completing his ultimate quest. Do you think it would be do you think that they should stop the show? They should stop The Mandalorian and just end it on a high note?
I mean, my first observation after watching the last episode of the season was that in some ways, as amazing as the episode was, it felt more like a series finale rather than a season finale. It's and you could end the show right there and go, that was completely satisfying. We've had, it was like, it was like 2 10-hour movies or whatever,
Right. Yeah.
and you could end it there and everybody would be very, very satisfied and very, very happy. That being said, I mean, there's obviously a whole array of stories we can still tell in the Mandalorian's, life, and I think season 3 is probably going to just start in a similar fashion to how season 1 started. We'll just see him. What's the next part of his life? He's going to go off and do another bounty mission. He's going to do this. He'll get caught up in some other adventure or whatever, because. The first few episodes of season 1, before he actually decided, right, whatever they're doing to Baby Yoda or Grogu or whatever, that's not on. I'm not having that, and I'm saving this kid. And then
Right.
and then from that moment on, his mission is to return the child to his people. But obviously, before we got to that moment, we were having a lot of just regular kind of, I'm a bounty hunter. I'm going off. I'm capturing people and getting bounty for them. And there's what's his name, Grief Karga or whatever, was issuing out the bounty pucks and all that sort of thing. Yep. I think we'll probably just get back into something like that again, and he'll get caught up in a different adventure. And he'll, no doubt rope in, other characters like Cara Dune and Bo-Katan or whoever, to help him on his way. So I think even though you could have quite satisfactorily ended it there with that episode, I think, and I'm trying to rack my brain. Maybe you guys in the chat might have an example for me. I'm trying to rack my brain of another series that has hit a point that it's that it's almost like had a mini conclusion, and then it's sort of gone on to tell a different story or whatever halfway through.
Supernatural kind of comes to mind. They had kind of a conclusion at season 5, I think, and then they continued it for 10 more years.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, what I would hope for is if they decide to keep it going, which I believe that they have already announced that. Is that I want it to be a bit more. I feel like he needs another big task, and I think that it's going to ultimately culminate with him going. At some point, I think he's going to go get Grogu off the Jedi Temple, because I don't think Disney's setting it up so that Baby Yoda dies at the temple, and like we saw in the Last Jedi.
Well, that conceivably doesn't happen for another, I don't know,
a while. Like a long time.
Like if Ben Solo was,
I think he's just a kid right now. I think people have averaged that time period out.
Well,
like a little kid.
He'd be like 5 or 6 years old or something,
Yeah.
So, which means the actual thing with him destroying the Jedi Temple doesn't happen for another probably 10 to 15 years potentially. So there's a bit of a time gap in there where we're not sure in terms of when that's likely to happen, but I think
he will go back and get him though at some point. I don't think he's going to leave him there.
I think whether there needs to be an adequate reason for him to to do that. What's the motivation behind going back and getting? Because obviously he's now in a good place. He's with Luke. What's gonna trump that? What's going to trump that motivation, I suppose, to say, I've got to go and get him for some reason?
I mean, it could also be a situation where Grogu decides to leave the temple. That could also be a situation, and maybe he goes off to find the Mando. But all that to say, I don't think we're done seeing Grogu. I don't think we're done with that. I do think that I think they're going to really tie in more of, because he still has possession of the Darksaber. And I think that they're going to tie a little bit more into maybe his ultimate goal now will be to kind of help take back Mandalore and kind of find the other convents of Mandalorians and kind of resave his own race, his own family. Maybe that'll be his focus and helping out Bo-Katan. And maybe he, runs into, because they don't really see eye to eye, in terms of ideologies and processes and procedures. and what they agree on is the proper, this is the way for Mandalorians. So maybe there's going to be some conflict there, and maybe he's going to get into conflict with Boba Fett, who took over Jabba's palace, at the end of that in the stinger there. Yeah,
I'm actually surprised that, because obviously that was another big reveal at the end of the episode, that there's this new series called the Book of Boba Fett coming. Was it December next year? I think was it December 2021?
December of next year. Yep.
That sort of surprises me a little bit, because how are you going to make that series? Like, just backtracking a little bit. I get the Ahsoka series, because that's the series about Ahsoka and, whatever she's up to. And obviously the other series, which I think is called, you'll have to remind me, I've forgotten it.
Like the New Republic Rangers or whatever.
Yes, the Rangers of the New Republic, which I think is going to be the Cara Dune Bo-Katan series.
Potentially.
That was my understanding, is that there was going to be the series with Cara Dune and Bo-Katan, which I think is this Rangers one. So how are you going to do a series with Boba Fett and make it different enough to what The Mandalorian already is? Because you've already got one show with a bounty hunter in Mandalorian armor doing bounty missions and all that sort of stuff. So how are you going to make a series with Boba Fett, who essentially is kind of like another Mandalorian bounty hunter, different to The Mandalorian?
I would say I think that they're going to twist the character of Boba Fett in a little bit, where I think what they showed us, and this is purely speculation and an assumption on my part. Yeah. So with him arriving at the palace, and instead of looking for work, which I think is what Boba Fett would have done before, him killing everyone and taking the seat, I think was him shifting the character of, I'm tired of working for these idiots. I'm just going to do this myself. So I think he's going to be criminal underworld Boba Fett, and he's going to maybe go into conflict with the New Republic, as they're trying to reestablish order. Maybe he's going to go into conflict there, and so there might be something like that. That's the way I'm picturing that. I don't think he's going to continue bounty hunting and also running this criminal organization, the Fets or whatever he's going to call them. I don't know. The little Bobas. I don't know what he's going to call them, But that's my assumption. I don't know. It is interesting, and I'm hoping that they're being careful, because studios, they love, every studio does the same damn thing. One thing makes money, and they're like, okay, just keep making that until it stops making money and people hate it. And just keep throwing more resources into it. So I hope that they're being very cautious, very deliberate, very careful with everything. And I think that they are. The fact that, I know people were like up in arms about it on the internet, but the fact that they, from what I understand, is they put the kibosh on the Kenobi show and they kind of tossed everything in the bin and they redid it, I feel like is because they just didn't like what they were seeing, and they really wanted to make sure that this was really what it needed to be. I also don't think that it's a coincidence that after they did that, suddenly Hayden Christensen has a role in that show. So I feel like that may have also contributed to that, which I love. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. I'll wait another little bit for that. He deserves it, man. He got ridiculed to no end in the early 2000s for his portrayal of Anakin Skywalker,
and he's not by any means a bad actor. He was just given some very cheesy lines to deliver, which isn't any fault of his. Thank you so much, Good Tea Nice House, for the super chat there. Oh yes, my call out before, Heroes could have just left it at season 1 finale. That's true. See, Heroes did.
That's damn true.
Outstay its welcome significantly.
Yes, it did. Yes.
And it started off being such a great show too in the first couple of seasons, and then just sort of went downhill from there.
That's another show that I think it overstated. Like, they had like a plan, and then they were like, people really like this, so here's a bunch of more money, and can you make this 10 seasons? And they were like, I don't. Yes, yes. I don't. I was trying to do.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so.
Did you have a favorite episode of season 2 Mandalorian? Was there one that just stood out for you as being like, just love this one?
Obviously episode 10 of course comes to mind just because of how cool it was. Honestly, I really liked the Ahsoka Tano episode. The homage to the old Japanese not Japanese Westerns. What would you call them? The old You're talking about the spaghetti westerns.
Spaghetti, yeah, the old, the old the Kurosawa sort of style,
Oh, right.
Lone hero comes to town that's been, it's sort of like the old feudal samurai who, the town is,
samurai styles.
Yeah,
yep, that's also true.
Yes.
Yeah, it had a lot of blending of different styles there. I liked it because I also, even though some people complained about, the makeup and the look of Ahsoka Tano, I thought Rosario Dawson did a fantastic job. Her
absolutely.
Fight sequences, she did the fight sequences were really fun. They were super energetic. They were really kind of cool the way that they did that. And I really liked that episode a lot. They brought back Michael Biehn as the kind of outlaw commander. I love Michael Biehn. He doesn't get enough work.
I haven't seen Michael Biehn on anything for ages. I didn't even recognize him. It took me I was watching it and I was like, I know this because I didn't know he was in that episode. I go, I know this guy. Where's he from? I was trying to put my finger on it, and then and then 10 minutes into the episode, like, oh God, it's Michael Biehn.
It's Michael Biehn. I know. I saw him when he was up on the wall, and I saw him there, and I was like, they got my boy Biehn in this. They got Biehn. I was super excited. That's why that episode for me, I felt like had really good plot development with the learning of Grogu's name and kind of talking about the Force. And then also we got the spear of destiny or whatever, and then we got the Thrawn tease. Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano did really great. I liked this Japanese town construct that they had. Yeah. To me, that was just the finale. Of course, was fireworks, but if I had to pick an episode, that would be my favorite episode. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only criticism I kind of had, or that I've noticed about Ahsoka's makeup was the fact that the length of her I think they're called leku or something, the head tails or whatever. They were a lot shorter than what they had appeared in Star Wars Rebels. So they kind of went with more of the Clone Wars length on them rather than the Star Wars Rebels length on them. So that was the only major difference that I observed. But in terms of just capturing the spirit of Ahsoka that Ashley Eckstein had sort of put into her in the Clone Wars series, I think Rosario Dawson did an amazing job of that. And look, and also, it was fantastic to see Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan, who obviously had voiced Bo-Katan in not only the Clone Wars but also Rebels series. So the fact that they kept that continuity all the way through was amazing. They didn't recast the role, which they could have, but I thought kudos to. Katie
Sackhoff she actually has a YouTube channel if anybody's interested in that. But she's a very physical actor. She clearly, is the appropriate age and look for the character. It worked very well. I thought that was smart of them to kind of, like you said, to keep that throughput there. I would say, for me, with the tendrils or whatever you want to call them on Ahsoka being shortened, I noticed it immediately, obviously, because I was like, well, are those the right length? And I think it was either one of two reasons. Is either one, they went with the most iconic look of Ahsoka, which is from Clone Wars.
Yes.
Where she only had a small appearances in Rebels and people may not have seen her in that.
That's true,
so
yes.
That I think. Or the more likely reason is that doing the fight sequences with these huge things on her would have looked maybe it just looked bad in testing.
I wonder whether they did like a test with the makeup on, and they found they flip-flopped all over the place or whatever, or didn't move properly, or maybe there was some issue that with the longer ones, once she moved and started doing any kind of lightsaber action, they flipped around in a way that just looked sort of comical or something, and they thought, oh shit, we have to scale these down a bit or whatever, because they're just behaving in a weird way on screen, which obviously you can have a great deal more control about when you're doing the characters in CG, which you can't do in live action. So
that's the thing is totally. I think that's probably the most it's Dave Filoni created this character with a team, but obviously he knows how long her friggin' tendrils are supposed to be. It wasn't a mistake.
And he directed the episode, so yeah.
Yeah. So he did it like it was intentional. There was a reason for it, and I don't think it was just they didn't bother to go back and check how long they should have been. I don't think he would have made a mistake like that.
Yeah.
I just don't believe it.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of other episodes, I think I really enjoyed. The first episode I thought really set the bar. The one directed by Jon Favreau with Timothy Olyphant. With the crate dragon. That was I think that was the longest episode of the season. I think from memory. That ran at like 55 minutes long or something compared with...
I have to go back and look. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So that was almost like a mini movie in itself. I think the next longest episode there was probably the finale, which was like 47 minutes or something, I think, from memory. But that certainly, I thought, set the level. It's like, right, this is the bar for this season, and we're gonna stay there. I mean, every episode had, with obviously the Timothy Olyphant appearing as Cobb Vanth in the first episode, the Bo-Katan episode 3, we had Grief Karga and Cara Dune on that mission to take out the Imperial base on I forget the name of the planet they were on there where Grief Karga and whatnot.
I don't remember the name of the planet.
Obviously, then episode 5 we had Ahsoka. Episode 6 we had Boba Fett and Fennec Shand kicking ass with all those stormtroopers. And then obviously episode 7 we had the rescue of the Mayfield character and the infiltrating of the Imperial base. Every episode just had, it was so rich with action. And if they're doing all this, show, I got a sense that the episode, what was it? The tragedy, the one with Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. That seemed like they were doing all that on location because they were running up and down the hillside, taking out stormtroopers. That seemed like it was location work. But the episode that was in the jungle episode with the Imperial base for the Mayfield rescue seemed like it could have been on the volume or whatever.
Yeah,
if it was, kudos to them because, what they're doing with that technology is just astounding.
For sure, yeah. They've definitely improved upon it from the first season, which the first season was also really, phenomenal. The tragedy was filmed on location. I know that because there was actually some videos that had leaked online like 6 months ago of somebody who was actually out there by accident, I guess like hiking or something. And they just heard like a commotion, and then there was this video that somebody was shooting on their camera, and they went around a corner and they looked down, and in the valley were all of these stormtroopers standing around, and there was a filming crew out there. So they did do some filming out there on location, which I thought was a smart choice for that, because you needed to feel that distance, because he didn't have his jetpack, that you needed to feel that scale, that real scale of having to run back and then run there and then run back. You needed to feel it, and I think it was smart to put that on location for sure.
And look, and speaking of that episode, what do you think's going to be the case with poor old Mando's ship? Because at the end of this season, we've obviously got Boba Fett and Fennec Shand have pissed off to Tatooine to take over Jabba the Hutt's, or should I say Bib Fortuna's palace, Empire. Yep. And the Razor Crest got blown to pieces in episode 7. So, how is Mando getting about these days? How is he? Is there like a Star Wars version of Uber he's having to kind of, to call up, or what's the deal with that?
Well, that's why I think my theory right now is he's going to be hanging out with Bo-Katan for a little bit on that Imperial cruiser, and then eventually he'll find another ship. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he's going to find another Razor Crest or like a different version of it. I don't think so. I think that he's going to get a whole new ship, and I think it's going to be another unique design that they're going to work up and cook up for season 3 at some point. Because I think he's going to get a new ship.
We have only seen one other Razor Crest class ship in Star Wars. Do you remember where it was?
No.
Okay. I don't know whether you guys remember, those of you who've watched Clone Wars, there was a Clone Wars episode where I'm not sure what season it was in, but it was the episode where Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka had to train a bunch of villagers who were being attacked by the Weequay pirates. and there was a group of bounty hunters that were. They kind of joined forces with. One of them was like a Zabrak who had the kind of Darth Maul horns. The other one was Embo, who's that alien bounty hunter who has the big hat that's like a Captain America shield. There was a little guy in like a robotic suit. And their ship was a Razor Crest. You only saw it very briefly in a shot halfway through and at the end of the episode in a kind of a hangar in this village where these villagers were being attacked by pirates. But their ship was almost identical to Mando's Razor Crest. There were some subtle differences, but it was in terms of its silhouette, it was more or less the same class of ship. And that's the only time we've ever seen another Razor Crest in Star Wars, to my knowledge. So, I mean, the difficult thing is, I think, in these shows is the ship, whether it's the Enterprise in Star Trek or the Voyager or the Defiant or the Millennium Falcon or whatever, the ship becomes a character. Mm-hmm. The ship becomes a beloved character, in the show. So to blow it to pieces, it's like, is he going to get a new ship of a completely different class? Is he going to get just another Razor Crest? Because I got the impression that when people referred to it as the Razor Crest, it wasn't like they were referring to it like in the same context as they referred to the Millennium Falcon, which is this ship is the Millennium Falcon. It's a Corellian, YT, whatever it is, transport. Yeah, and it is iconic. It is called the Millennium Falcon. Mm-hmm. Whereas I got a sense that the Razor Crest was like, its model, like like a Ford Mustang, like a Ford Mustang or whatever. There's heaps of them out there, and the Razor Crest is the make, not necessarily the ship's name. Because I think when Mando was being pursued by X-Wings, the X-Wings would say, "Hey, you in the Razor Crest," or whatever, not referring to it as the ship's name, but as the ship's make and model, so to speak.
I thought it was the ship's name. I think the ship name is the Razor Crest. Okay. But honestly, I mean, and I'm not too up and up on the expanded discussions on Star Wars. So it's possible that they've already given this ship designation, like an actual, like the YT whatever, it's actually got like a designation to it. I'm sure somebody in the chat probably knows if they do. But I'm not too up and up on it. I thought it was the name of it, but either way, I do. The issue, like you just said, like the ship becomes iconic. So if they come up with another ship, people are always going to compare it to the Razor Crest. So it has to be equally as cool or even more cool than the Razor Crest. Otherwise, they're going to run the risk of people constantly being like, this ship sucks, go back to the Razor Crest. Oh. And
I mean, the poor Razor Crest copped a bit of a hiding in both the seasons. Like, it got completely trashed by Jawas or whatever in the first season. Yes. It was like... it was completely gutted. They had to fly around with, the back door hanging off and everything, at the start of season 2. So, I guess it was probably beyond... it was a bit of a write-off. I don't think the insurers probably would have,
Yeah, definitely not.
Yes.
No. Yeah, he doesn't have a Space Geico to help him out. No,
that's
definitely
right.
Not.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So we might just open up. We probably haven't got long to go to finish up the live stream today, but maybe we'll open it up to you guys in the chat. If you've got any questions you would like to ask either of us, or any topics of discussion, whether it be either about Star Trek Discovery, about any other Star Trek series that's coming up next year, or about Mandalorian stuff, feel free to shoot any questions or Q&A you have in the chat now, and we'll hopefully answer them before we conclude the chat.
Yeah, I saw one way earlier on that brought up the idea of Cronenberg being the mysterious man seen in Enterprise. I know it was originally supposed to be Captain Archer, but maybe they're going to do a little retcon and that'll be Cronenberg. That would be interesting.
It would be interesting because that was one of the frustrating elements of Enterprise that never got questions that never got answered.
Right. Yep.
I think that would be. I would like to hope that maybe they did even if it's just an episode of Strange New Worlds, because that obviously I think it lends itself, because that's going to be an episodic show, not a serialized show. You could do an episode which just answers some of these old questions that have left us hanging, without worrying about it. Because I guess when you're doing a show, like whether it be like Picard or Discovery, that is very much serialized, and you have to tell the story of that, whatever the seasonal story is, you can only kind of tell that story, and you sort of haven't got the liberty to branch off and do other, stories or whatever. So you're just telling the story about the burn, or you're telling the story about, Picard finding Data's daughter, or whatever the case is, and you've got to stick to that. Whereas Strange New Worlds being episodic, I think, as opposed to serialized, will have far greater latitude to expand out and tell us some extra stories that maybe we haven't had answered for us. So, hopefully they'll get a chance to do that, because I actually just watched the believe it or not, my oldest son, who hadn't seen Enterprise, we've just finished watching the whole Enterprise finale last night, actually, and it had been a long time since I'd seen the finale of Enterprise, and obviously it got smashed to bits when it came out because of it being a Next Generation episode with just flashbacks of Enterprise or whatever. And it wasn't as bad as I remember it being at the time. However, there was one big thing that they left out of it that I think would have made it a lot more palatable, and that was the ending of the episode where Archer kind of walks out to give the whole speech of the founding of the Federation, and Riker kind of says to Troy, do you remember this speech? Oh, yeah, I think I learned it in primary school or something. We don't need to watch this. And they just walk out of the holodeck, and that's the end. It's like, because Archer's building for this big speech. He's walked out, there's a crowd there. And you kind of expect this big rousing speech where he kind of, it's this, huge speech full of gravitas talking about the founding of the Federation and da-da-da.
Right, this big thing.
Yeah, and it's like Riker and Troy just go, we don't need to see that.
Yeah,
we know what this is.
Later.
And they just walk out of the holodeck. It's like, oh God. I mean, I like the bit where they had the ships of each different show. They had the Enterprise with Picard doing the voiceover, and Kirk doing it with the Enterprise, and then Arch. That was great. But if it had have just had an extra few minutes in the episode where you actually saw Archer go out and deliver the whole, founding of the Federation.
But then they'd have to write the speech, and they didn't want to do that.
Yeah,
they didn't want to write the speech.
That was the problem. Right. That was the problem.
Yes, exactly.
Just looking at the chat to see if there's any questions we can end on. But yeah, I think whether we, I think the last few episodes of Discovery, I think will, hopefully they'll be narratively satisfying, and all of the mysteries that the burn has raised or whatever will be adequately. Adequately
either answered or properly set up for a season 4 continuation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Very well. All righty. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for joining me here today for our third live stream together. Everybody always shoots messages in various chats and stuff asking me when we're doing our next one or whatever. We've sort of been making it a bit of a once every kind of 5 or 6 weeks kind of thing, which I think is good because it gives us a chance to kind of watch, get a few episodes under our belt
and content,
and then have something to discuss. Glenn the Geek Hippie, when will Adira get a uniform? Correct. And also, are we going to see the new 32nd century uniforms for the Discovery crew in season 4? I wonder.
I think it's going to be in season 4.
So you reckon they're going to be new uniforms in season 4?
Yeah. I think they may tease them at the end of this season, but I think we'll get them in season 4, probably just because of budget. It was probably just too much money to get all those uniforms for all the people. So that it's probably they're gonna get them. They're gonna get them, and I think it'll probably be season 4 for sure. That's what I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Chuck. Chuck A says you guys are great. Thank you. Thanks so much, mate, and everybody else for their attendance today in the live stream. I'm guessing probably in a few weeks' time after the 3rd season of Discovery concludes, we'll probably do another one of these in mid-January or thereabouts. I'm sure just doing our respective wrap-ups and what our overall thoughts were on how the season concluded and panned out and everything. So until then, thank you everybody for coming along, and we will. I'll be obviously back for a couple of more videos. I think, although I'm not sure about you, Nick, but might be a bit late on my reviews for the next episode or two, because we've obviously got our episodes happening on Christmas. I think Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, I think, is when they're on. So please bear with both of us if our respective episode reviews or whatever are a couple of days late, as I'm sure everybody will be very busy with holidays and everything. So wish everybody the best for the holiday season, and thank you again, Nick, for joining me in the live stream today.
Of course, thank you for having me on.
No worries. Thanks, guys. We'll see you both. We'll see everybody soon for our next videos. Until then, stay safe and have